SFLC
Podcast.
Well, hello there. Welcome to another wonderful episode of the SFLC podcast. My name is Mike Heck. Thanks for having us on wherever you're listening, whether it be Stitcher, iTunes, TuneIn Radio, mymmanews.com, our website, sflcpodcast.com. We truly appreciate it, and I truly hope you guys had a great St. Paddy's Day weekend. You guys caused just enough trouble, but didn't do anything too ridiculous. That's what it's all about, getting just enough trouble, but not breaking the law. It's the St. Paddy's Day spirit. All right, so we're not going to waste a lot of time here. In just a moment, we'll be joined by one of your favorites, one of my favorites. Right now, the number one ranked welterweight contender in the UFC. Just headlined his first pay-per-view at UFC 209. Stephen Wonderboy Thompson will join us, coming off the majority decision loss to Tyron Woodley. It was their second go-around. The first fight was an absolute battle. Went to a majority draw second time around. And you got to understand, especially me, I'm not a fighter. I'm not here to judge anybody. Was it the most compelling fight of all time? No, it was not. And I'm sure both guys will agree with that statement. However, we're not Tyron Woodley, and we're not Stephen Wonderboy Thompson. We're not the ones in the cage fighting in front of hundreds of thousands of people watching on TV and 15,000 people in the arena. We're just not. Was it Diego Sanchez versus Gilbert Melendez? That it was not. But it was a very close fight. Wonderboy was not able to capture the UFC welterweight title. So from here, where does he go? What does he do? And that's what we're here to find out. We know yesterday that he had a successful surgery. You saw the videos all over the place. He was very groggy coming out of it, which is understandable. That's what happens with surgeries. So we'll get an update from Stephen Wonderboy Thompson, see what's next, see what kind of matchups he's looking at. I know there's a lot of chatter. John Kavanagh put out this tweet after Gunnar Nelson's big win over Alan Jouban in London. It was a great win for him. He looked absolutely sensational. And he put the picture of the Karate Kids and the crane kicks and said, how about Wonderboy versus Gunnar Nelson? And everyone got very excited about that. I know a lot of media members are excited about that. I know a lot of fans are excited about that. So we'll see how he feels about that. Oh, as a matter of fact, let us find out right now as we connect with Stephen Wonderboy Thompson. All right, joining us on the phone right now, once again, we saw him a couple weeks ago in his first pay-per-view main event. He took on Tyron Woodley for the UFC welterweight title, rematch from their battle in November at UFC 205. The fight was a majority draw. This time, it was a majority decision for the champion Woodley. We're being joined by Stephen Wonderboy Thompson. He joins us on the phone right now. How are you, sir?
Doing great, my friend. Doing great. Glad to be on with you.
Absolutely. And I want to start with this. We were originally scheduled to chat yesterday, and we kind of had to move it ahead to today because you said you had a surgery scheduled for yesterday, and we saw the video and people have been talking about it. What was the procedure you had, and what was it for?
I actually had a MCL tear and a slight meniscus tear on my right leg. So they went in and scoped it out. It was an orthoscopic procedure, so it was in and out. Back in physical therapy today, and feeling good, man, ready to step out there. They say 4 to 6 weeks will be the healing time, but I'm predicting that it will be faster than that.
Oh, it doesn't surprise me at all. Was this something you were dealing with before the fight with Tyron, or was this something that happened while the fight was happening?
It actually happened during the fight. In the fifth round, he blitzed me, and I had fallen down. I was getting back up to my feet, and I think I was turning to my right, and I ended up getting a shot to the back of the head, and I ended up falling straight down on my leg, kind of at an awkward angle. When I went back and watched it, I found out that's where I ended up hurting my knee. But I didn't know it was hurt until about, 2 to 3 hours after the fight, after the adrenaline wore off. So I was like, man, something's wrong with my knee. And I had knee procedures done in the past, so I knew something wasn't right. So as soon as I got back, we got an MRI and torn MCL and meniscus tear. So, I'm walking on it fine. I think like I said, they predicting I'll be back 4 to 6 weeks, but I'm feeling great, man.
Good to hear. Obviously, the fight with Tyron didn't go your way. You lost the majority decision. I know after the fight, you felt like you had done enough to win. Dana White said he felt that you had done enough to win, but you said you've gone back and watched the fight. After rewatching it, do you still feel like you should have gotten the rub, so to speak, from the judges?
You know what? I went back, me and my coaches both, we watched the fight numerous times. We thought we had it, and still do to this day, but sometimes, you don't get the a say-so in it, and it is what it is. And, hopefully these next two fights, depending on who it will be, we'll be back up there to fight for that title again. So, staying positive, man, always have been. Just it's the best to get back out and in the training, you get back out there in the octagon.
A lot of people were talking about how tentative you both were in that fight, but, the knowledgeable folks around the sport from watching the first one, I mean, we obviously understood why. Tyron has that big-time power, which you felt in the fifth round and a couple times in the first fight, and Tyron obviously knows that rushing in on you could have had devastating consequences. So looking back, I mean, obviously hindsight's 20/20, but do you agree with that? Both of you guys were tentative because you knew you were both so dangerous and you learned so much from that first fight?
You know what? That's exactly what it was. And the fact that I came out there, I believe, with my right side forward instead of my left side. The whole time, the very first fight, I had my left side forward. So I really expected him to be a little bit more aggressive in this round, or in this fight, but he definitely surprised me with just backing up the whole time. But I think so. I think he knows that, when you rush in, you end up getting caught. And for me, is, trying to A, not get hit with that right hand, but B, not let him get a hold of you. Because Tyron, he's a strong guy. I've got guys who are, at 205ers, and Tyron just seems, he's that strong. He could definitely, outpower you, but, he ended up getting me down in the third round. I got back up, but very strong guy. So I didn't want to get into a clinch battle with him.
I know a lot of fans talked about the fight being a boring fight, and I've seen the responses from Tyron saying, why don't you get in there with Wonderboy? Like, they can tag in, and I'll step out, and they can get in there. And Dana White kind of said the same thing about both of you guys. How do you react to the biggest critics in all of sports, the casual MMA fan?
Well, we do go out there to entertain the fans, and, of course, that's our job. But you also got to think about your safety as well. And people, why, if you're worried about your safety, why fight? Why fight this? Well, there are times out there when it's not a very good idea to be rushing in to anything, especially when you got a heavy-handed guy like Tyron. Or a guy with kind of power that could end your career, to be honest with you. You've seen guys get knocked out, get detached retinas, and Tyron's power is that can do that to you. And I'm not looking to, get my career ended, so you have to be very cautious. You got to be smart about it, and try and stick to your game plan, And guys who rushed in there and took Tyron's power lightly ended up getting knocked out. So, you know what? I don't know exactly what I can tell them, but just, keep an open mind and realize that we're putting ourselves out there on the line too. And you got to be smart about it. That's about it.
Yeah, I can agree with that 100%. So you guys have had your two fights. The result remains the same. Tyron is still the champion. And as we all know, this sport, this division is wild. A lot of compelling matchups out there. Maya Masvidal coming up in May, which will have some implications. And like you said, a couple more wins, you could be right back in there. So to kind of clarify, at this point, March 22nd, 2017, you're prepared to move on from the belt for the time being.
Yes, I mean, my goal is I don't have that belt on the way, so that is still my goal. And whoever steps out there with me, that will be focused on them, but that belt is still on my mind. So you see a lot of guys who fight for the title, they don't get it, and they just kind of fall away to the wayside. That's not going to be me. I'm looking to fight, a top-ranked guy or two, in the top five. I'm thinking there's a lot of talk about there, me and Gunnar Nelson, but, so to speak, I think he's ranked number 9 right now. I'm looking at, 125 right now. It doesn't matter. I know Daniel Mine's got a fight coming up with Masvidal, but Condit, hopefully, you hear a word about him retiring, and I've always wanted to step out there with him, or even Robbie Lawler. So, and I think Gunnar Nelson fights one of those top guys, proves himself that he's able to go up there, then he's definitely, I think in the future we'll be facing each other, but right now it's those top 5 guys I'm looking at.
So with Gunnar, obviously you probably saw the tweet that John Kavanaugh put out, the Karate Kid matchup, and fans are all fired up about that. I mean, you've been a guy in that position as well, being sort of a lower ranked guy. You got the chance to fight Johnny Hendricks when you were rolling along. So you see Gunnar Nelson as a future opponent with another win or two for him under his belt, and not really right now. That's not really what you're looking for.
Well, not right now. I'm ranked number 1. I do believe that we'll be facing each other. the top 5 guys, the 2 top guys that he has fought, he's lost to. I think it was Rick Story and Damian Maia. So, it is what it is. If there's nobody to fight in the top 5, we may be facing each other. You never know. But I'm looking at that, like I said, either Condit or, Robbie Lawler. I know Damian's got a fight coming up. But I think it would be an awesome match, to be honest with you.
Yeah, I agree. Me and our good buddy Damon Martin from Fox Sports, we had that discussion. We had talked maybe Donald Cerrone, but Robbie Lawler seemed to be kind of our consensus pick for a bounce back. But as far as this Maia Masvidal fight playing out, and I know you're not a prediction guy, so I'm going to approach this differently. Maia obviously is going to try to do what he does: take you down, take your back, choke you, and win. Masvidal is just on a tear. He's got great defense, very good jiu-jitsu, not to the level of Damian Maia's, but still very good, and he knows how to get out of positions and get back to his feet. He's very dangerous on his feet as well. What do you think Masvidal would have to do to beat Damian Maia? Like, if he were to call you for some Wonderboy wisdom right now, what would you tell him?
Well, you know what? Obviously, it's to keep it standing. I don't think anybody in the 170 division has even come close to Damian Maia's jiu-jitsu. I mean, you saw what he did to Gunnar Nelson, and Gunnar Nelson's one of the top jiu-jitsu guys and black belts, around. So my goal, or if I could give some advice to him, is to keep it standing. Obviously, he's got great takedown defense, and just keep him at bay, man. But you can't stand in front of Damian. If you stand in front of Damian, especially flat-footed, like Carlos Condit did, he will take you down. So you have to keep your stance low. You have to work those side-to-side angles, and just keep your punches in his face. He doesn't do very well moving in when you got a jab or a punch or a kick in his face. He waits for you to stall out, then that's when he shoots. So you have to, and to be honest with you, if you can time it, you can look out there and you know when Damian Maia is getting ready to shoot. Maybe time a good right hand or a flying knee or something like that. Timing is going to be, very important, I think, going into this fight for Masvidal.
If Maia wins, heck, even if Masvidal wins in May, and they line up the winner with Tyron Woodley, is there a part of you that'll be rooting for Tyron to lose? Not because you don't like the guy or anything like that. For the people who love to twist things around and create nonsensical headlines, but from like a business perspective, new blood, new fights. You know what I mean?
Yeah. I don't wish that on anybody. Because I would love to fight Tyron again. The first one was to draw, and he's one of the guys that has beaten me. I would love to face him again. But you know what? Another thing, if Damian Maia does get that shot, or, Damian Maia is a good buddy of mine. We were actually sponsored by the same company, Bad Boy, at one point. Very, very good friend of mine, and he's been at this game for a long time, so it would be cool to see him win it. But you know what? To me, it doesn't matter. Whoever gets that belt, that's the guy I'm going to be aiming for. But it is pretty cool. That's why, this game is so exciting, especially the welterweight division, because you never know what can happen. And, of course, you have that, mystery guy out there, George St. Pierre. Where's he going to go after the Disney fight,
There's just so much going on. It's such a crazy sport.
Oh, my goodness.
It just never ends.
It's nuts.
And, your family rolls along, too. Chris Weidman, your brother-in-law's got a big fight coming up with Gegard Mousasi in a couple weeks in Buffalo at UFC 210, and I'm sure you guys have spoken a little bit. It's a huge fight for him. How's he feeling? What are you hearing from Chris as he heads into this huge fight?
Man, Chris is fired up, man. He's fired up. He's itching the bit to get back out there and do it again. I will be there in Buffalo to be supporting my man, Chris. Man, his weight's on point. He's looking strong, looking lean and mean, man. I think he's going to go out there and do work. So he's working his way back into that title as well. That's his plan. That's his goal. We're going to do it together.
Your mindset seems to be just perfect right now coming off those two fights. I mean, 2017 hasn't started off the way you had hoped. You were hoping to have that belt displayed at Upstate Karate for everybody to see. And the fight game, like we talked about, could be certainly a fickle game to say the least. Now, we know what you're interested in. Is the goal to win out the rest of the year, fight for the belt again in like early 2018, or is the goal to get right back to the belt before 2017's over?
If that is possible, I'm right there. But, if I can get up to the top, to be fighting for that title again this year, that's the goal. But as of right now, I've got to heal up. I got one thing on my mind, and that's healing up from this knee surgery, putting 100% into it. That way, I can put 100% into my training and in this next fight coming up.
Did your dad give you a couple days off from Upstate Karate with the surgery or what?
Oh, man. Well, I had the surgery yesterday, and I had physical therapy today, and I'm going to go right back in there. I might be sitting down on the floor, but I'll be teaching classes all right.
All right. So you're back at it again today?
Oh, yeah. I love it, man. I love it.
Unbelievable. You are just a machine. So I know you got to get ready to get the kids ready for the program after school at Upstate Karate in Simpsonville, South Carolina. You guys do great work. You guys keep the kids focused. We've seen some videos surface on Facebook. Just really great stuff. You guys are pillars in the community. Always great stuff from you, and we always appreciate the time, and we look forward to seeing what is next for you and throughout the year. Always a pleasure. Thank you for the time once again.
Anytime, my friend. Definitely a pleasure, and hopefully we can do it again.
All right, there he is. Stephen Wonderboy Thompson, coming off the loss at UFC 209 to the reigning, defending UFC welterweight champion, Tyron Woodley. We'll see what is next for him. That Gunnar fight got a lot of people fired up. But I get where his mindset's at. That's a dangerous fight. Gunnar Nelson's on a tear, and when you see Gunnar Nelson have the performance like he had against a guy like Alan Jouban, my first thought was, and I know a lot of other people have said this as well, is that just shows you how good Demian Maia is. It's just unbelievable how good Demian Maia is, how easily he was able to control him and just dominate Gunnar Nelson in that fight. And he goes out and does what he did to Alan Jouban over the weekend, who's a very dangerous guy in his own right. It's a very interesting fight. Got a lot of people talking. Gunnar may need another win or two under his belt before he gets to fight the number one guy, but we'll see what happens. I like the Robbie Lawler fight. I think that fight makes the most amount of sense. And Condit's a good one, too, if he's ready to come back. So we will keep our eyes on this. Obviously, Wonderboy is going to be healing up for the next 4 to 6 weeks after his MCL surgery, so we'll see. We appreciate his time as always. All right, that'll do it for this episode of the SFLC podcast. We'll be back later on tonight, and we'll talk to UFC bantamweight contender, the number 5 ranked bantamweight in the world, Jimmy Rivera. And I think, and a lot of fans have weighed on this, that him and Rafael Assunção would be a very interesting fight in that division. A division that kind of needs to move forward with the new champion. Obviously, Cody Garbrandt's going to be fighting TJ Dillashaw later on this year. We don't know what's going to happen with Dominic Cruz. He already said he's going to fight for the belt in his next fight, so maybe that's the case. But we got to get this division moved. We got to keep finding contenders, and I think matching up Assunção and Jimmy Rivera is perfect. So we'll get Jimmy's thoughts on that later on tonight. My name is Mike Hack. Thanks for having us on.